Dear Mother, today I held a man's life in my hands, and he begged me for mercy in a language I barely understood. But I read his eyes. God help me, I read his eyes. I'm writing this by candlelight in a cellar that smells like death and wet stone. My hands are shaking, not from the cold, though it's bitter here in Belgium, but because today I looked into a man's eyes and saw something I wasn't supposed to see. I saw myself. And Mother, I need to tell you what happened. Because if I don't write it down, if I don't confess this to someone who knew me before I became this, I'm afraid I'll lose the last piece of who I was. It started like every morning since we crossed into the Ardennes. You wake up not knowing if you've slept 2 hours or 5. Time doesn't work the same way here. Someone's always on watch. Someone's always dying somewhere close enough to hear. You learn to sleep through the distant screams, the artillery that sounds like God clearing his throat. But you never get used to the silence between the sounds. That's when your mind fills in the gaps with thoughts of home. This morning, I thought about your apple pie. Isn't that strange? 23 years old, surrounded by men with rifles and 1,000-yard stares, and I'm thinking about the way you'd slice the apples so thin they'd melt on your tongue. The way the cinnamon would make the whole house smell like safety. Sergeant McKinney, you remember him, Mother, the one from Portland whose mother sends those awful fruitcakes. He caught me smiling to myself. "What you thinking about, Tommy?" he asked. "Home," I said. He just nodded. We all think about home. We just don't talk about it much anymore. Talking about it makes it hurt worse. By 0600 hours, we got our orders. There was a German position about 2 clicks northeast. That's military for close enough to be dangerous. Intelligence said it was a supply depot, lightly defended. Get in, clear it out, secure any intelligence, get back before dark. Lightly defended is what they always say. I checked my rifle for the 100th time. M1 Garand, 8 rounds, clips that ping when they're empty. That ping has saved my life twice and nearly got me killed once. You develop a relationship with your weapon here. It's the only thing between you and eternity. Private Martinez crossed himself 3 times before we moved out. He does that every time. I used to find it superstitious. Now I understand it. When you've seen what we've seen, you'll grab onto anything that feels like protection. The snow had stopped falling, but everything was covered in white. Beautiful if you could forget that white snow hides dark things, minds, bodies, blood that's frozen solid. We moved in formation, 23 men who trusted each other with their lives because we had no other choice. I didn't know that by nightfall, I'd become someone my mother might not recognize. The forest was too quiet, Mother. That's the first thing you learn in combat. When nature goes silent, something's wrong. No birds, no wind through the branches, just the crunch of our boots in the snow and the sound of our own breathing, fog coming out in short bursts like our lungs were saying prayers. Corporal Davies raised his fist, the signal to stop. We froze. He'd seen something, or heard something, or felt something in that animal part of his brain that kept him alive through North Africa and Sicily. You listen to men like Davies. The ones who trust their instincts are the ones who make it home. Ahead, through the skeletal trees, we could see the depot. It wasn't much. A commandeered farmhouse, a few outbuildings, supply trucks with German markings, smoke rising from a chimney. Someone was trying to stay warm. Someone was about to die. That's the thought that always comes, unbidden. Someone was eating breakfast or writing a letter home or thinking about a girl with blonde hair, and in the next few minutes, their entire existence would be erased. Maybe by my bullet, maybe by Martinez's. Doesn't matter whose. Dead is dead. We split into 2 groups. McKinney took Alpha Team around the east side. I stayed with Davies and Bravo Team, 8 of us total, moving through the snow like ghosts with rifles. The first shot came from somewhere I couldn't see. Then, everything became noise. You've asked me before, Mother, what combat sounds like. I've never been able to tell you. Because there are no words for it. It's not like the movies where you hear distinct gunshots and dramatic music. It's chaos. It's every sound happening at once. Rifles cracking, men shouting, something exploding, someone screaming, your own heartbeat hammering in your ears like a drum that won't stop. And underneath it all, this high-pitched ringing that never quite goes away. I found cover behind a stone wall. Martinez dropped beside me, his face pale, lips moving in silent prayer. Across the courtyard, I could see muzzle flashes from the farmhouse windows. They were firing blind, scared, desperate, just like us. Davies was shouting orders, but I could barely hear him. Something about flanking, about suppressing fire, about not letting them retreat to the trucks. Military language for kill them before they kill you. I raised my rifle and fired. 1 shot, 2, 3. The window I was aiming at went dark. I don't know if I hit anyone. I've learned not to think about that part. You pull the trigger, you move, you survive. Thinking comes later. Guilt comes later. We pushed forward. The resistance collapsed faster than we expected. Maybe they were low on ammunition. Maybe they were just boys like us, far from home, tired of dying for old men's wars. The shooting stopped, the smoke cleared, and suddenly it was over. 7 Germans dead in the courtyard, 3 more wounded, and 1 who ran. I saw him break from behind a supply truck, dark coat, no helmet, stumbling through the snow like a wounded animal, young. Couldn't have been older than 20. Davies yelled something, but I was already running after him. This is the part I need you to understand, Mother. I don't know why I chased him. Training, maybe? Adrenaline? Or maybe something darker, that predator instinct that war brings out in civilized men. He ran into the tree line. I followed, and that's when everything changed. I could hear him crashing through the underbrush ahead, branches snapping, desperate gasping breaths. He was panicking, running blind. I was calmer. That scared me even then, how calm I was, hunting another human being through the snow. My boots found his footprints easily. Deep impressions, irregular spacing. He was exhausted, making mistakes. I was trained for this, the hunter and the hunted. When did I become the hunter, Mother? I thought about the letters you sent, the ones where you talked about Mrs. Henderson's son coming home early with what they're calling battle fatigue. You wrote that he wasn't the same, that his mother cried because he wouldn't look her in the eye anymore. I understood that now, running through those trees with my rifle ready, my heart steady, following a man I intended to kill. The tracks led to a ravine, steep sides, probably 8 feet deep with a frozen stream at the bottom. He'd jumped or fallen. There were slide marks in the snow. I approached the edge carefully, rifle raised, safety off. And there he was. He'd hurt himself in the fall. His left leg was twisted at an angle that made my stomach turn. He was trying to crawl up the opposite bank but kept sliding back down. When he heard me, he stopped. Slowly, so slowly, he turned around. That's when I saw his face for the first time. Mother, I've tried to describe this to myself 100 different ways in my head, and I still can't find the right words. He wasn't what I expected. He wasn't the monster they show us in the propaganda posters. He wasn't the inhuman enemy we're told we're fighting. He was just a kid. Brown eyes, dirt on his face, a cut above his eyebrow bleeding down his cheek. He was crying. Not sobbing, but tears were running down his face, cutting clean tracks through the grime, and he was terrified. I kept my rifle trained on him. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what I was trained to do. Enemy combatant, wounded, cornered. Secure the prisoner or eliminate the threat. But my finger wouldn't move to the trigger. He raised his hand slowly, wincing with pain, and he started to speak. German, fast and desperate, words tumbling over each other. I couldn't understand most of it, but I caught fragments. Bitte, please, nicht, don't, and one word that was almost the same in English. Mutter. Mother. He was calling for his mother. Something broke inside me in that moment, or maybe something woke up. I don't know which is worse. Shut up, I said, not shouting, almost gentle. Just shut up. But he kept talking, kept pleading, his hands shaking in the air. He reached slowly toward his coat pocket and I almost shot him, almost. But he moved so carefully, so deliberately, pulling something out inch by inch, a photograph. Even from 8 feet away, I could see what it was. A woman with kind eyes and dark hair standing next to a young man in civilian clothes. Him before the war, before the uniform, before this moment in a frozen ravine in Belgium, his mother. He held it toward me like an offering, like proof of his humanity. And he said one more thing, slowly, emphasizing each syllable. Ish, hab, mutter. I have a mother, as if that could save him, as if sharing that one truth could build a bridge across the war between us. And God help me, mother, it did. I should have shot him. That's what I was trained to do. That's what the manual says. That's what would keep my squad safe, what would help us win this war, what would get me home to you faster. But I lowered my rifle. Not all the way, just down, pointing at the ground instead of his chest. He saw it, the change. Hope flickered across his face, fighting with terror. He said something else in German, softer now, almost a whisper. English? I asked. Do you speak English? He nodded, frantic. Little? Small? I speak small? Your leg, I said, gesturing. It's broken. He looked down at it as if he'd forgotten. Ja, yes. Is bad. We stared at each other across that ravine. Two young men who should have been in college or working in factories or courting girls at church socials. Instead, we were here, in a frozen hell with death between us. What's your name? I don't know why I asked that. He hesitated. Like giving me his name would give me power over him. Maybe it would. Franz, he said finally. I am Franz. Thomas, Tommy. Tommy, he repeated, testing the sound. Then, desperately, please, Tommy, bitte, I do not want die. The thing is, mother, I believed him. Not because he was special or different or more deserving of life than the other men I'd killed, but because in that moment, I could see that he meant it with every fiber of his being. He wanted to live. The same way I wanted to live. The same way every soldier in every army has wanted to live since men first picked up weapons. I heard voices in the distance, my squad calling for me. Thomas, Tommy, where are you? Franz heard them too. His eyes went wide with panic. We both knew what would happen if they found him. Wounded enemy soldier, alone with one of ours, they'd shoot him without hesitation, without question. Please, he said again. Please, please, please. His hands were clasped together now, still in the air, like he was praying. Maybe he was. I made a decision in that moment that I still don't understand. Maybe I'll never understand it. Listen to me carefully, I said. When I leave, you crawl downstream. Follow the creek. There's a farmhouse about half a mile that way. I pointed. It looked abandoned when we passed it this morning. You hide there. You wait. You don't come out until you hear English or French voices, not German. Understand? He stared at me like I'd spoken in a language he'd never heard. You let me go? I didn't see you, I said. You got away. I lost your trail in the ravine. That's what I'm going to tell them. Why? His voice cracked. Why you do this? I looked at the photograph still clutched in his hand, at his young face, at the tears drying on his cheeks. Because you have a mother, I said, and she's waiting for you to come home. Franz made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. He said something in rapid German. I think it was a prayer or a blessing. And then in broken English, thank you, thank you. I not forget. Never forget. Go, I said, before I changed my mind. But we both knew I wouldn't. He started crawling, wincing with every movement, dragging his broken leg behind him. I watched until he disappeared around a bend in the ravine. Then I fired 3 shots into the air, missed shots searching for a target that got away. When McKinney and Davies found me a few minutes later, I was staring down into the empty ravine. Lost him, I said. Sorry, Sarge. Davies looked skeptical, but didn't push it. Let's head back. Mission's complete. As we walked back to the depot, Martinez fell in beside me. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then, quietly, I would have done the same thing, Tommy. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. He just nodded. Yeah, me neither. I don't know if Franz made it to that farmhouse. I don't know if he survived his injuries. I don't know if he made it home to his mother. But mother, I need you to understand something. In that moment, I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't an American fighting Germans. I was just a son thinking about his mother, looking at another son thinking about his mother, and I couldn't pull the trigger. That was 3 weeks ago, Mother. 3 weeks. And I still see his face every time I close my eyes. Not in a nightmare kind of way. Not like the other faces I see. The ones twisted in death, the ones frozen in their final moment. No, I see Franz's face the way it was when he realized I wasn't going to kill him. That expression of disbelief, hope, gratitude, and something else I can't quite name. Relief, maybe. Or recognition. The recognition that there's still some humanity left in this war. The other men don't know what happened. Only Martinez suspects, and he's never said a word. We continue our missions. More depots, more villages, more firefights that blur together into one long nightmare of mud and blood and noise. But something changed in me that day in the ravine. Yesterday we were clearing a bombed-out village. Can't tell you where, sensors would black it out anyway. And we found a German soldier hiding in a basement. Young kid, maybe 18, terrified out of his mind, hands up crying. McKinney had his rifle on him. One less Nazi to worry about, he said, but I stepped between them. He's surrendering, I said. So what? He's the enemy, Tommy. He's a prisoner of war. That means something. McKinney stared at me like I'd grown a second head, but something in my voice made him lower his rifle. We took the kid prisoner, sent him back to the POW cage. He'll probably survive the war now. McKinney pulled me aside later. You getting soft on me, Tommy? No, I said. I'm just trying to stay human. He didn't have an answer for that. The thing is, Mother, I don't regret letting Franz go. I know I should. I know by the rules of war, by the rules of survival, by the rules of everything they taught us, I made the wrong choice. He could rejoin his unit. He could kill Allied soldiers. He could kill my friends. But I don't regret it, because I looked into his eyes and saw what this war is doing to all of us. We're not fighting monsters. We're fighting men. Men with mothers and sisters and sweethearts waiting at home. Men who cry and bleed and beg for mercy in a dozen different languages. We're turning each other into monsters. But we're not monsters. Not yet. Not if we can still see each other as human. There's a passage from that Bible you gave me before I shipped out. I never told you this, but I've been reading it. The Gospel of Matthew. Jesus talking about loving your enemies. I used to think that was beautiful but impossible. A nice idea for peacetime but useless in war. Now I wonder if it's the only idea that matters in war. I don't know if Franz made it home. I hope he did. I hope he's sitting at his mother's table right now, eating whatever German mothers make their sons eat, telling her about the American soldier who didn't kill him. I hope she cried with relief. The way I hope you'll cry with relief when I come home to you. Because, Mother, I need you to know, I'm coming home. Maybe not soon. This war isn't over. There's still fighting ahead, still missions, still moments where I'll have to make choices I don't want to make. But I'm coming home. And when I do, I need you to know that I tried. I tried to stay the person you raised, the boy who helped neighbors carry groceries, the boy who cried when our dog died, the boy who believed people were basically good. This war is trying to kill that boy. Every single day it's trying to turn him into something else, something harder, something colder. But that day in the ravine, I fought back. I saw the enemy beg me for mercy and I gave it to him, not because he deserved it, not because it was tactical, not because it would help us win the war, but because mercy is the last thing we have that separates us from the darkness. And Mother, I can't forget his face, but I don't want to. Because forgetting his face would mean forgetting my own humanity, and I'm not ready to do that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Last night, I had the dream again. Not the usual ones where I'm back in combat, where I'm running through fire or watching friends fall. No, in this dream, I'm home. I'm sitting at our kitchen table, and you're making coffee. The morning light is coming through the window, touching everything gold. And Franz walks in. He sits down across from me. His leg isn't broken anymore. He's clean, wearing civilian clothes. He doesn't say anything. He just looks at me, and I look at him, and we both understand something without words. We're alive because of choices we made in impossible moments. Then I wake up, and I'm back in this cellar that smells like death, surrounded by men who are fighting their own private wars inside their heads. Private Martinez asked me something yesterday that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. We were on watch together, sharing a cigarette, staring at the empty road ahead. "Tommy," he said, "you think God keeps score? Like, all the men we kill, all the choices we make, you think he's writing it down somewhere?" "I don't know," I said. "I hope so. I hope it matters." "You think letting that German go, you think that counts for something?" I'd never told Martinez explicitly what happened, but he knew, the way soldiers know things. "I don't know if it counts for anything," I said, "but it had to mean something, even if it's just to me." Martinez nodded slowly. "My priest back home used to say that mercy is what makes us human, that without it we're just animals with guns. Your priest was a smart man. He's probably dead now. Church took a direct hit last Christmas." We sat in silence after that. Sometimes there's nothing to say. But Mother, I keep thinking about what Martinez said, about mercy making us human, because that's what I felt in that ravine with Franz. Not weak, not traitorous, not even particularly noble, just human. Since then, I've noticed things I never saw before. The way enemy soldiers look when they surrender, the relief in their eyes that they get to live another day. The photographs we find on bodies, wives, children, parents, dogs, evidence of lives that were being lived before bombs and bullets interrupted them. There was a German medic we captured last week. He was tending to his wounded, completely unarmed, hands covered in blood. Our lieutenant wanted to question him about troop movements. But when the medic saw our wounded, he immediately started helping them. Didn't ask permission, didn't hesitate, just saw injured men and responded. The lieutenant let him work. Later he told me, "That man's not my enemy. He's just doing the same thing our medics are doing." Maybe that's what I learned from Franz, that the real enemy isn't the men in different uniforms. It's the war itself. The machine that takes boys and turns them into soldiers, that takes names and turns them into casualties, that takes mercy and calls it weakness. I've seen what happens when men lose their mercy, Mother. I've seen the towns where civilians were killed. I've heard the stories from other fronts. I've seen the empty looks in the eyes of soldiers who've been fighting too long, who've lost too much, who've forgotten there was ever anything besides death and survival. They become efficient, ruthless, effective. They also become something less than human. I don't want to become that. Even if it means I'm not the best soldier, even if it means I carry this weight forever, even if it means I have to live with the faces of everyone I didn't save and the one face of the man I did. Corporal Davies caught me writing this letter. He asked who I was writing to. "My mother," I said. "Tell her we'll get you home safe," he said. "Tell her we look after each other." "I will." "And Tommy," he paused. "Whatever you're working through, that's good. Some guys, they bottle it up. Then one day they just break. You're smart to write it out." I didn't tell him that I'm not writing this to work through anything. I'm writing this because I need someone to know. I need there to be a record somewhere that in the middle of all this death, mercy happened, love happened, humanity happened. Because, Mother, I'm afraid. Not of dying. I made peace with that possibility a long time ago. I'm afraid of surviving this war and forgetting what it means to be human. I'm afraid of coming home and being unable to look you in the eye. I'm afraid of becoming the kind of man who can kill without question, without hesitation, without it costing him something. Franz's face reminds me that it still costs something, and that cost is what keeps me human. I don't know when this letter will reach you, Mother. The mail is irregular at best. Sometimes letters arrive in bunches, all out of order, so you're reading about Christmas in March and spring training in November. Sometimes they don't arrive at all, lost in transit, lost in the chaos, lost like so many other things in this war. But I need to finish this. I need to tell you the end of the story. Or maybe not the end. It doesn't feel like it's ended. Maybe it never will. 2 days ago, we liberated a town. I can't tell you which one, censors again, but it was small. Maybe 500 people before the war. Less now. Much less. The Germans had retreated ahead of us, but they'd left destruction behind. Burned buildings, cratered streets, and in the town square, a memorial. Makeshift crosses, dozens of them, marking graves of civilians killed in the crossfire. An old woman approached me while I was standing there. She must have been 70, bent with age and grief, wearing black from head to toe. She spoke French, I've picked up a little, and she asked if we were the Americans. "Oui, madame," I said. "Yes." She took my hand in both of hers. Her hands were cold, rough with work and weather, and she said, "Merci. Merci pour la libération." Thank you for the liberation. I wanted to tell her we didn't liberate them. We just traded one violence for another, that some of those crosses in the square probably bore the names of people killed by our artillery. That liberation is just a word we use to make war sound noble. But I didn't. Because she needed to believe it. She needed to believe that her suffering meant something, that her dead meant something. Maybe they do. I don't know anymore. That evening, as we set up camp in what was left of the town hall, I found something tucked under my gear. A small package wrapped in brown paper. No note, no explanation. Inside was a rosary. Martinez was sitting nearby, cleaning his rifle. He saw what I was holding and smiled slightly. "That was me," he said. "I asked my mother to send extra. Thought you might need one." "I'm not Catholic," I said. "Neither is God, far as I know. He doesn't care how you pray, Tommy. Just that you do." I've been carrying it ever since, not because I've suddenly found religion, though maybe I'm looking for it, but because it's tangible, physical. A reminder that there are people praying for me, for all of us, including maybe Franz's mother, praying for her son to come home, not knowing that an American soldier with shaking hands made that prayer more likely to be answered. I wonder about her sometimes. Does she know he was injured? Does she know he was trapped behind enemy lines? Does she lie awake at night the way I imagine you do, Mother, wondering if the next telegram will be about her son? I hope not. I hope Franz made it to a field hospital. I hope he's recovering in some quiet place, far from the front lines. I hope he writes to his mother and tells her he's alive. I hope he doesn't tell her about me. Not because I'm ashamed, but because some stories are too complicated for letters home. Some moments are too heavy to share. Some mercy is too personal to explain. McKinney says we're moving out tomorrow, headed east, deeper into Germany. Closer to the end, everyone says, though we've been saying that for months and the war keeps going. More towns to liberate, more enemies to fight, more faces I'll see and try to forget. But Franz's face, I'll remember. Mother, I know this letter's long. I know it's heavy. I know it's not what you want to hear. You want to hear that I'm safe, that I'm eating enough, that the war isn't changing me. I can't tell you those things, not honestly. But I can tell you this. I'm trying. Every single day, I'm trying to hold on to the person you raised, the person who believes in mercy, who believes in humanity, who believes that even in war, even in darkness, there's still a choice. I chose mercy, and I'll carry that choice and that face for the rest of my life. When this war ends, when I finally come home, I don't know what kind of man I'll be. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep through the night without hearing gunfire. I don't know if I'll be able to sit at a dinner table without checking exits. I don't know if I'll ever be able to explain what I've seen and done. But I know that somewhere in Germany, if God is merciful, there's a young man who's alive because I chose to see him as human. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that one moment of mercy is enough to keep the darkness from taking everything. I hope you can understand that, Mother. I hope you can forgive me if I come home different. I hope you can still see me, the real me, underneath whatever this war has made me. Because I'm still here. Changed, yes. Haunted, yes. But still here. Still your son. Still capable of mercy. Still human. I need to finish now, Mother. The candle is almost gone and we move at first light. I'll mail this letter tomorrow if I can find a courier heading back to the rear. It might take weeks to reach you. It might never reach you. But I needed to write it. I needed to put these words somewhere outside of my own head. I saw the enemy beg me for mercy, and I gave it to him. I can't forget his face, his eyes, the photograph of his mother clutched in his shaking hand, the sound of his voice when he said, "Thank you," in broken English. But I don't want to forget, because forgetting would be easier. Forgetting would let me become the kind of soldier who doesn't question orders, who doesn't see faces, who doesn't carry the weight of mercy. And I refuse to be that soldier, even if it costs me, even if it haunts me, even if I carry this weight until the day I die, because mercy, Mother, is the one thing they can't take from us. Not the generals, not the enemy, not the war itself. Mercy is the last thing that proves we're still human. And as long as I can still give mercy, I'm still your son. The boy who left home is gone, I think. He died in a dozen different firefights, 100 different moments when innocence wasn't enough to survive. But the man writing this letter, the man who let an enemy soldier live, the man who sees humanity even in war, I hope you can still love him. I hope you can still recognize him when he comes home. I hope he comes home. Until then, keep the light on in the window, say your prayers, and know that somewhere in this war, your son chose mercy when mercy wasn't required, and he's still trying to be the man you raised. I love you, Mother. Your son, Thomas.